Whenever you lose someone, you also feel the guilt of what you could have done, how you could have helped, how you could have said goodbye, how, you could have done more. And there's so much extra burden that we try to load on ourselves that this is one of my points. So in this video, I wanted to kind of be a bit vulnerable about some of the things that I've gone through, or some of the things I went through in 2021, in the hope and in the aid that with how I recovered from that season of my life, I can also share the tips that can help some people who are maybe going through a similar period of their life right now. So if you relate to anything that I talk about in this video, then I really hope that these tips really work and they work for you and they help you get out of this rough season of your life. So without further ado, I'm going to be talking about how to deal with grief and other ugly emotions. There's a family that I've grown up very closely with. They have 3 children. The oldest son is someone that I'm very close to. He has sickle cell, I have sickle cell, but throughout his life, his sickle cell was far worse than mine. And I'm saying this to make it very clear in the beginning that he had to go through a lot throughout the entirety of his life, and we basically knew what he was going through. As a family, we were supportive for their family, and they also provided support for our family as well. Me and my brother basically used to go over to their house, like literally every weekend. Like we were that close. It was our second home. We loved that family as if they were an extended portion of ours. My friend in particular, he still went through rough periods where the doctors wouldn't know what's wrong with him. He would be in so much pain. He would have to go to hospital for extended periods of time. There was a time that he was actually on life support when he was younger, and he recovered. Since then, he's done so many amazing things. He's met Obama. He accomplished so many achievements, and he was such an inspiration to all of us. Most of all, I just remember looking up to someone like him as someone who has sickle cell, and seeing that if he can do so much with his life, then nothing is limiting me. I just remember randomly in 2021 receiving a message from him on Snapchat. It was just a random message. It was like, "I'm so proud of you. You seem so happy, and that's amazing. Keep killing it." And it was just such a short, small message, but I felt so warmed by it. Basically, I just said, same. I'm really happy that you are also succeeding. You're also doing great things. At that point, he was doing his second year of university. He was doing accounting as well. So yet another reason why, like, I thought he was such a hero. Like, he was doing so much, even whilst there were so many health difficulties and challenges, he didn't let that stop him. So anyway, fast forward 2 weeks later, I was preparing for a night shift. I normally sleep before my night shifts to prepare properly, because it's 12 hours that I need to be awake, or 11, because I can have a 1-hour break. So I was preparing for my night shift, and that means that I normally take like a 2 or 3 hour nap. And I got a phone call from one of the members of their family, and I was just like, you know what? I'm on do not disturb mode. Let me just call them the next day. So I started my night shift. Everything was going fine. And I didn't really think much about the call that I got before, until my mum called me about 2 hours into my night shift, and all she said over the phone was, "He's gone." And I kid you not, like, I can't even remember the details of the shift from that point onwards. All I remember was tears, a lot of them. I was so distraught. Like, I had to go into the toilet in the bathroom so no one would question me, and just cry for 10 minutes straight. And I found out that the phone call that I got beforehand was his brother trying to tell me that the doctor said that he wouldn't make it. And when I realized that, a lot of things broke in my mind mentally. First of all, I was thinking, if I had picked up, maybe I could have said goodbye, maybe I could have said all these things. But my mum was very reassuring in the fact that she said that at that point, he was basically non-responsive. So even if I had picked up the phone, it would be just to reassure the family, or just so I would have known before he passed on. So I just went through for the next 2 months. It was, at this point, it was September the 3rd. For the next month, 2 months, I was not myself. I was sleeping more than usual. I just had no motivation to do what I loved doing beforehand. Every 3 seconds I had a memory of him. I would break down, I would cry, I would fall apart. Basically, that was the only way I would explain it, is I would fall apart. The motivation to get out of my house and do all these things, it just wasn't there. To go on placements, put a smile on my face, I had none. I had no energy for myself, let alone to pretend to other people that I was okay. From the Saturday morning that I clocked off my night shift, I took a train straight home and we went to their house. And I just remember a lot of family members, of course, going to console his mum, the whole family in general, so their house was pretty full. And I just remember sitting in his room, the room that we had laughed together in, the room that he had shown me how to play Xbox and PlayStation and all of these things in, the room where we had had such deep conversations, the room where he told me about all the things that he'd gone through and all the health challenges, and I was telling him about all the things that I was looking forward to as well, and we talked about our dreams, hopes, aspirations. I just sat down in that room and there was no words that could just explain how I felt during that moment. Just tears. It was just tears. It was constant. And my mum came from work, so my parents could pick me up, but I literally couldn't leave with them. I said, I'll take the bus, take public transport, I get home whenever, but I just need more time. Because for me, whilst everyone was basically, trying to do small talk outside, I was still trying to process my own grief. And that's the moral kind of this story, is that grief affects everyone in so many different ways. For me, it took me into a place of depression. Like, I wouldn't go and actually clinic diagnose myself depression, but it felt like that. It felt like, with the lack of motivation, that tiredness, that lack of energy, that everything that I wanted to do normally, I had no energy for. It felt like what I was going through was almost impossible to break free from. Whenever you lose someone, you also feel the guilt of what you could have done, how you could have helped, how you could have said goodbye, how you could have done more. And there's so much extra burden that we try to load on ourselves, that this is one of my points, and I think this is going to be my first point. It's already enough burden to have grief on your heart after you lose someone you love. You don't need to go through that process wondering and thinking of all the things that you could have done, should have said, all those extra things that will not change the future. They will not change what you're going through. Dealing with the past, even whilst you're trying to face the present and plan for the future, just adds more baggage that you do not need whilst you're going through grief. So this is the first, and I think the most important point that I would like to emphasize in this video. Let your heart be filled with the happy memories, the good memories, how much joy they brought into your life, the conversations that you had. Ponder upon those things, because those things will make you smile. Even if they can't change the future, even if they can't bring them back, they will at least ease the burden of going through that period of your life. That's my first point. My second point is, don't rush your emotional process. Don't rush it for anyone else to appease another person that you're doing okay. Take your time, process that emotion. So sorry guys, I'm just gonna quickly film the rest of the video here. So on to my next part of the video, which is how to return back to normal life, how to return back to normal functioning when you've gone through grief, when you've lost someone. And one of the tips that I would give you guys is to, of course, get yourself a journal. Start writing some of these emotions that you're feeling down, and it will help you process them even more. Sometimes our anger masks itself as sadness. Sometimes our frustration masks itself as anger. And we won't know what we're feeling until we get it out on paper, until we talk to someone, until we flesh it out, really. So the next thing that I would also recommend is for people who are trying to get back into functioning. For me, I struggled so much because I was trying to be a medical student and also process grief. So it was really hard. There were some days where I just didn't even want to get out of bed. I didn't want to face the day. I didn't have any motivation to do all the things that I was doing before. For those people that are trying to figure out a way to return back to functioning, I would recommend something as simple as writing down the things that you need to do, the small tasks that you need to do today on a post-it note. Starting small is so underrated, but is so valuable when you are trying to get yourself back to functioning again. And when you accomplish them, it gives you like a little dopamine hit that you can go on to the next tasks, and it feels better you starting small and you building up. You realize that with time you've gradually eased yourself back into functioning. Even though it might not be functioning to the best of your capacity, you are functioning, you are moving, you are putting one foot in front of the other every single day. One of the last tips that I would give to you guys who are dealing with this process of grief or any other ugly emotion is to basically take it to God in prayer. I have a strong belief, I have a strong faith in God because of how he shows up in my life, because of the things that I've seen him visibly do. And my friend also had a strong faith in God as well. I think for us, the consolation was just knowing that he had such an amazing faith, and that he was now at peace, he was now at rest, he was now in his Father's arms. So for me, that just made the grief process go a lot smoother. Knowing that he was in a good place, knowing that he was in the best place, he was with God. So that's my encouragement, and my hope is that a lot more people will come to their identity in God, will come to realizing that this life is not all there is. That is what grief takes us through, this process of asking ourselves, what is after death? Is life all there is? Is the 22 years that person saw, is that all that they had to impact us? And the reality is that's not all. We have not just here, but we have eternity to look forward to spending with that person. And that's my encouragement to you guys, is to dig deep, to not just be comfortable with believing that this is all we have. There is more. There is a creator out there who knows exactly why he allows certain things to happen. My encouragement is to anyone who's going through grief is to go to God in prayer. All these emotions, don't feel that they are too bad to go to God in prayer with. Put them onto him. The Bible says cast your cares onto him because he cares for you. So if you're ever dealing with any emotion like that and you're thinking to yourself that this is just, I can't go to God with this is just too much for me, that is exactly the reason why you should go to God in prayer with those emotions. So give it to him and ask for peace in return. Peace that doesn't make sense. Peace that passes all understanding is what the Bible calls it. And you will get through the season. You will absolutely make it. I hope this has helped you guys. I hope you can connect at some point with some of these tips that I have talked about, whether it's journaling, whether it's just post-it notes, whether it's just reflecting on the good times that you had with that person, processing your grief in your own time, and realizing that you can go to God and give him all the burden of this grief that you're going through. If you've resonated with any one of those 5 tips or any of those 5 advices, then let me know in the comments, and I'll pray for you. I'll pray that you are going to get through this, that this season of your life is not going to break you, but it's going to allow you to see God in a true light. It's going to allow you to see life in a true light. Life will not overwhelm us. That is one thing I am sure of, is that whatever you are going through, remember that you are going through it. That means that it will pass. I hope this has helped you guys, and if it has, let me know in the comments, and I'll see you guys in my very next video. Bye. Always